don't think this is fair. And you've taught us that everything changes in this world except for the laws. So I want to know, how can we, as a collective, change this in this lifetime? Thank you so much, Bashar. Goodbye.
By broadening your definition of abundance and not focusing so much on the idea that money is the only form of it. Because the idea is that if you equalize all forms of abundance, such as being given a gift, such as having something to trade, such as imagination, such as communication, such as synchronicity, then you can allow whatever form of abundance, including the idea of money as one representation of it, to come together in whatever amounts and percentages they need to form the 100% abundance that someone needs to continue to act on their excitement. But because there's been such a high degree of focus on money being the only really valid form of abundance on your planet, then you have this apparent unfair inequality. But it only seems that way because you're only focusing on one aspect of abundance. Remember, abundance is simply the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. And there are many ways to allow that to happen. So when you start to relax and expand your definitions of abundance, you will find that you can be equally abundant to anyone you're calling the 1%, as long as you have the same capacity to do what you truly need to do when you need to do it. It doesn't matter what style of abundance you're using, you're still abundant, equally so. So it will balance out, and people who have more money will realize they don't need as much to do what they need to do, and then it will spread out a little bit more evenly among the population, because everyone will be happy to use whatever form of abundance is necessary at any given moment, and the different forms will equalize themselves throughout the society.
Hello, hello.
And good day, good day.
Oh, it's so exciting. Hi, Bashar. Hi, thank you.
All right, thank you. Please proceed with what you would like to discuss.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you about the formula.
Yes, please go ahead.
So first, I'd like to confirm that my definition is the one that you'd like us to be working with.
All right.
Then I'd like to share the process I've been using to sort of reverse engineer it and apply it for myself.
All right.
Okay. So as I understand it, the definition of the formula is to act on my highest excitement to the best of my ability without any insistence on a particular outcome, and stay in a positive state.
All right. Generally, yes.
Okay. So the funny part about this for me is if I'm following the formula and being in the flow, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just in the flow.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Exactly. So then there are the times when, if I'm either a little neutral or maybe a little negative, kind of a little, like thoughts are a little less cohesive or whatever, that's when I reflect on, that's when I reach for the formula to get back into the flow.
Yes. Also, remember, those moments are not just about going ahead blindly, but the idea of recognizing why something may have shifted in your vibrational state and getting in touch with the belief system that may have caused the shift. Remember, the tools that come along automatically with the formula, one of which being the reflective mirror that may reveal to you as you are flowing what within you as a belief isn't allowing you to flow. So the very idea of discovering some belief within you that is not representative of your excitement is part of your excitement. And therefore, it's not about just rushing forward, but staying with it and investigating the belief system that brought it up, because that's the whole point of that moment.
Right. I think I get that. I think
All
I want to explain the process to get, I've been enjoying it and feel successful, but maybe there's some more insights, just like what you just said. There's might be some more in it for me. So
all right.
I've sort of reverse engineered it, because if I'm feeling a little neutral, or when I get that reflection that is, sort of disrupts the flow, the word act in the beginning of the formula feels like a big, because I'm like, Am I acting on my high? The answer is no. So what I did to soften it for myself is I actually begin with the sort of end in mind. I go to the staying in a positive state.
Yes.
And so I start at the end and I get myself in a positive state. I sort of soothe myself. I remember everything's here to serve me. I'll take a more detailed look at it now about the beliefs now with that reminder.
Yes, in a sense, looking at the belief is part of the formula, but the idea is that the formula is a circle, no beginning and no ending, so you can start anywhere within it.
Okay, that is so exciting. That's wonderful confirmation, because I've been using it like remaining positive, because then the without insistence part,
yes,
for me, if I feel I should do something or I need to do something, that feels like it's often, I think I need to do this to get that.
You're making it conditional, in other words.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And that doesn't feel good. That feels like insistence. And so I back off it.
Yes. It can be.
So I've been backing off of it. And then I return back to that remaining positive. And then I'm able to go through without insistence, resistance kind of stuff.
Or assumption. Remember, that's in there too. Remember, it's no assumption, no insistence.
No assumption.
Yes, because the no assumption part is you don't always know exactly why your excitement came in the form that it did.
Right.
So you don't want to impose an assumption that the form it came in is what actually has to come to fruition.
Got it. Yeah, that's really helpful. That's really helpful reminder. Yeah,
right.
Because I'm maybe inspired to start a task that I'll never see through, but that helped me launch to another thing and another thing.
As long as it is done within that positive state, as long as you are clear that you're not the one dampening your excitement to stop doing the task, then yes, it is a natural waning of the excitement that tells you something else needs to be acted on at that moment, since you're no longer capable of experiencing your passion in that thing. Again, as long as you're not the one blocking it.
I really appreciate that assumption part.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. And then the part about best of my ability, I used to give myself a hard time about that because I feel like I thought it was performance-based. Like
no, not really.
Stronger, smarter.
No. It is simply, yes, on one level, do your best, but it also means look at the parameters in which you are acting. Some things will not simply allow you to go down a certain path, including synchronicity. Remember, there's positive and negative synchronicity, but I don't mean negative in the bad sense. I mean negative in the sense that it might show you not only the idea of an opportunity you can act on, but it might also reveal to you opportunities or pathways that are not your path at that moment and prevent you from acting on them.
Right.
So the idea is to honor whatever the parameters are in your particular society or culture as well that you've agreed to abide by. For example, some people on your planet have misinterpreted the idea that acting on your excitement means they can ignore your laws. That's not what we mean. The idea is to acknowledge the parameters that you've agreed to in your society, because if you understand that you have agreed to them, then breaking those parameters isn't necessary in order for you to experience what you need based on the actions you take. So use it as a guideline that you can work within those parameters, unless, of course, it excites you to change them through the system that allows you to do so. But if that's not something you're excited to do or not something you're able to do, then the parameters are there as a guiding mechanism. It's not about tearing through them or breaking them.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yes.
And I appreciate the confirmation, because I had written here like what I'm using the best of my ability, that part of the formula.
Yes.
How, that I'm using that to trust the synchronicity. Things will either unfold easily and flow, or it'll be disruptive or difficult, or, stub my toe, lose my keys.
Yes, and again, always at that moment, make sure you're not the one dampening the excitement. But if you're not, then that's the synchronicity telling you this isn't your path right now.
So is a way that I would dampen my excitement is to be anxious, or how would I dampen my excitement?
Yes, you might be unconsciously afraid of moving forward on the thing that actually would be representative of your passion. Therefore, you will kill the excitement so that you have an excuse not to move forward by saying, oh, well, that doesn't excite me anymore. When in fact it actually could if you would get in touch with the belief that is making it appear not to be. And that can come from a negative fear-based belief by saying, oh, if you go in that direction, something bad will happen, so don't go that way. You'll rationalize it through the negative belief.
Yes, that seems very true. I've had that experience, so I appreciate having that extra filter to make sure I'm not the one doing it, that it really is
It's always very important because, again, the formula is like an instruction manual, and you have to follow the instructions precisely in order for it to be clean, in a sense.
Oh, that is so wonderful. Thank you. That is so helpful. And
all right.
It's helpful confirmation. It's wonderful. And it helps me have now I have for whatever is next, the next,
yes,
evolution of that. Thank you
all right.
so
Well,
much.
thank you. Quote unquote, occupy more space than just your physical bodies. And therefore your urging or yearning to be more of yourself is making you more aware of the things that you are connected to, the other realities that you're actually participating in creating with your consciousness. Therefore, this splitting is a natural result. The driving of this awareness is a natural result of the expansion of consciousness into more levels, or I'll put it this way, the expansion of your awareness of your consciousness already existing in more levels. And that's what's driving it at this time, because as we have said before, you're now at the end of the cycle of forgetting and now beginning the cycle of remembering more of who you are. This is just the timing, the natural timing you have created for the overall collective theme going through the different cycles of change on the earth. This is what Earth is all about. And therefore, that's why this is the timing of it. Just in the same way that the timing of a graduation from any particular level of class or school has its own timing because you've learned what you need to learn. So you move on to the next level. So you're at the end of the cycle now. You've gone through all the different kinds of machinations of negative and positive ideas that are relevant for the Earth cycle. Now you're expanding your awareness into other dimensions, becoming aware of the fact that you exist in other dimensions, and therefore that naturally drives this particular splitting experience.
It almost sounds like it's sort of the birth of Homo Galacticus.
The beginning of it, yes. That's where you're moving to. You're going to the next class. You're going to college. You're going to university now. You are going out into the world and also starting to apply these ideas. In a sense, you are actually now moving into the job market of the galaxy.
This is a current event question that I think I'll ask.
We may or may not be able to address it. We will see.
Right. So the question is that there are some people who really want to have the vaccine, and they feel like their consciousness has been swayed, or they're fearful that they're harboring beliefs that'll make it harmful to them because there's a lot of controversy around it. Is there a permission slip that an individual who wants to have the vaccine can use to eliminate any subconscious issues around doing it?
Well, this is a process, as we have said, because it involves the process of getting in touch with your belief systems, finding the ones that might be negative or fear-based and letting them go so that you give yourself clearer discernment through synchronicity that comes to you as to what kind of choice is actually more in alignment with who you truly are. And that's all we can say at this time about that.
Okay. And this also comes back to the idea of our history as humans, and obviously we're starting to see the future aspects. When we look to the past, technically, of why primates and human DNA is so similar. Is there anything you can share with us about that? Why it is that way?
Well, that's not really a mystery. As we have said, the Anunnaki chose an evolved hominid on your planet from the idea of the evolution of the primates up to a certain period, such as Homo erectus, to then inject their own genetic material into to create Homo sapien. So why should it be a mystery if you know that the original material used to create Homo sapien with the addition of the Anunnaki extraterrestrial genetics came from a pool of primates. Why should your genetic material be that different?
Well, I think it's also, were they surprised when the beings they created had such a high propensity for violence?
Some of them, a little bit, yes. They didn't necessarily expect that.
Did they think that the alien DNA would mitigate that?
Some of them thought it might, but remember that the reason why that group of Anunnaki were recalled was because they had acted out of hubris.
Well, there you go. That's part of what happens with humans, too. We act out of hubris.
Exactly. Therefore, it wasn't necessarily too surprising, since they obviously had the potential for that even in their own DNA.
I see. Okay. And one question that came up was, why we experience pain in childbirth, since it's a natural process. And it seems like other species don't experience the degree that we do. So
yes, but it's not a natural process anymore, ever since you were hybridized, because you were given certain features that were not there originally. In a sense, it's like you're giving birth to an alien that has a bigger head than you otherwise would have had as Homo erectus. Certain things in your genetic makeup changed, but certain things didn't change that much. And one of the things that didn't change that much was the idea of the birth canal. But since the idea of the increase, the enlargement of the cranium was one of the genetic alterations, then yes, actually human childbirth is not natural.
Well, that explains that, because certainly had a lot of humans dying in childbirth.
Yes.
Many centuries.
Yes.
This is a question about paradox.
Yes.
Can you name the main, most basic of all large paradoxes, things that cannot exist together by the rules of physical reality, but obviously do, that we as humans need to always be in conscious recognition with in order to experience life holistically?
We would answer that the largest paradox is your ability to even perceive that paradoxes exist. Because the idea of your focus in physical reality can be so limiting that you don't necessarily often perceive the concept that something contradictory can also simultaneously exist with what you expect to exist, and yet it does. So you have developed the ability to perceive that two seemingly contradictory things can coexist side by side, which helps drive you back toward the center and the balance point. So in a sense, the biggest paradox is that you can perceive paradox at all.
Wow. And I guess on a day-to-day basis, it can be helpful to tune into the idea that there's other levels of you where what appears to be this or that is this and that.
Correct.
If you reach a plateau, what's the simplest way to raise your vibration?
Well, first of all, to know that you haven't reached the ultimate plateau. Knowing there is a higher plateau is the first step. But again, you have to allow for pause to happen in the natural order of things. Sometimes synchronicity will say, no, don't go any further right now. Stay here, ruminate, learn from what you have already experienced in climbing to this level. Stay here for a while and rest, absorb. Then, when it is time for you to continue to climb and raise your frequency, continue to follow the formula, and a new plateau will be provided through synchronicity. When it's time for synchronicity to say, it's time to move on, it will show you. But if synchronicity says no moving right now, then accept the plateau as a place to learn something, not as an interruption.
Okay. And something that we've talked about before having to do with trauma, and individuals who have experienced trauma in childhood and that are continuing to recreate the experience in the present moment.
Because they still identify themselves as actually being that child, which they're not. Because they are a different person. Now, It doesn't mean you can't continue to use the sense of continuity, the ability to create continuity to make it seem as if you're just the adult of that particular child. But you can now play with continuity in a way that will allow you to make whatever connections to that experience you feel you still need to, if you believe you need to learn something from it that you can apply in your present reality. But at the same time, knowing that that child isn't you, because as you become a new person, you create not only what appears to be a new present and a new future, but also a new past, and therefore a new childhood that leads to whatever the new person is that you are now today. So maintain whatever portions of that experience or recreate them for yourself if you wish to, if you believe that there is still something you can get from it. But at the same time, paradoxically, concurrently, allow yourself to also realize that whatever it was that that child experienced is not something that you experienced. That's a different person.
And you can change your relationship to the other person that had that experience. You don't have to abandon them in a sense.
No, not at all. You can, as we have suggested, start informing yourself here from your future self instead of your past self, and at the same time realize that you are the future self of that child if you wish to be. Therefore, send waves of energy, compassion, and love to that child. And that creates this kind of bootstrapping loop where you bring yourself up to the present being that you choose to be now by having sent from the present being you are now energy back to that child to give them the opportunity to go through a process of becoming the being that you are now.
I think that's very helpful.
All right.
And then lastly, just a question about finding your most powerful permission slips. I'm guessing that the idea of finding your most powerful permission slip is something that you explore.
It is, because remember, the reason you're attracted to use something is because it will work for you, or you wouldn't be attracted to it. So if there is curiosity to explore, if there's an attraction to a particular technique, tool, ritual, or process, those are the clues that it will probably work with your present belief system. When your belief system changes, you may find yourself attracted to different permission slips. Again, always remembering you are the ultimate permission slip because you're the one making the change anyway. The permission slip isn't actually doing it for you, but your belief system says that it will help you do it for yourself more easily. So by all means, whatever you're attracted to is what will work. And that's up to the synchronicity in your life and you simply following the vibrational path of passion.
It's wonderful. It's all designed to be wonderful for us.
It works automatically. It works easily and effortlessly as long as you don't contradict it with belief systems and definitions that are out of alignment with who you prefer to be. So.
Thank you so much, Bashar. We really appreciate your sharing and your exciting life that you are opening up for all of us.
Again, it is our passion and our pleasure to share these ideas with you, and we thank you with unconditional love and support. And now, allow yourselves to become prepared for the journey that takes place on your meditation.
Too much information, or we would have caused a panic.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of panic now. But I wanted to ask about the virus specifically. Was it bioengineered or was it just a natural occurrence?
Natural occurrence. It is the result of the destruction of various ecosystems on your planet that allow the virus that would naturally be contained in that ecosystem to spread farther than it normally would and find new hosts, because many of its own hosts, which would be the animals in the ecosystem, have been eliminated through the destruction of the ecosystem. Therefore, viruses will then seek out new niches to inhabit, which will now include humanity.
So what's the solution to this? Because a lot of people like Bill Gates have been talking about vaccinating the planet, which there's quite a lot of us who don't agree with that. So what is the solution?
Well, we cannot necessarily tell you which way to go. We will have to leave that up to you and your own choices. But obviously, since we are talking about the destruction of certain ecological systems, one solution would be the restoration of those systems rather than the continued destruction on your planet. Also, the reduction of fear-based belief systems, negative energy that is causing stress around your world since 2016 has diminished the immune system of most people on your planet by being put in exceedingly stressful situations of uncertainty, and therefore a rebalancing of the energy and an outputting of more positive energy would also be of some assistance to the collective consciousness so that the immune system will not be compromised in the way that it has been for the past several years.
So some people have been using vitamin C and quinine and things like that too.
I cannot discuss specific remedies that go into health issues because we are not allowed to discuss health issues in the physical sense of giving you cures.
Okay.
Now, as we have said previously, however, you can always begin with information we have already delivered on that subject, which means make sure that you are detoxified as much as you possibly can, so that at the very least the nutrients that you do manage to put in your bodies will actually take hold in the cellular structure and allow your body to repair itself as best as it possibly can in the circumstances and strengthen your immune system. So detoxification of the pollutants that exist in your society that then get lodged in your cellular structures and prevent nutrients from being absorbed would be the first step, so that whatever you do intake will remain in your cellular structure, will be able to even get into your cellular structure by being as thoroughly detoxified as you possibly can be. That's all we are allowed to say about the idea of any particular physiological remedying that may go on in your system. Other than that, we cannot advise for the idea of health issues with respect to remedies and cures.
Okay, thank you for that. And in terms of like the Sasani Collective, you know, I mean, and the civilizations you're aware of watching this, but it feels like we're in some sort of reality TV show. So
in a sense, you are.
Yeah, let's call it Earth 2020. So, what do they make of this virus episode? Could you ask the collective?
As we have already said, we recognize that you are going through what we call the eye of the needle. It is an important time of compression. The fact that you have created a situation where you are isolating yourselves, sequestering yourselves, distancing yourselves, gives you a sparkling opportunity to go within, to reassess your belief systems, to strip away those that don't serve you, so that you may in fact be capable of more effortlessly passing through what we call the eye of the needle to the other side. This is the midpoint. This is the crossing point. This is why we said 2020 was a very pivotal year in terms of what it is that is potentially possible and probable for you to experience on the other side of this. So it is an opportunity for you to strip away those things that are not you. Let go, let go, let go of the past ideas. Learn from them, but don't anchor to them. Don't repeat the ideas of what you used to be, but instead allow yourselves, as we said, to be informed by your future selves so that you can be guided effortlessly through this very, very narrow eye of the needle, which will not allow things that are not you to pass easily through it. So streamlining yourselves down by letting go of those belief systems that do not serve you and adopting only those ones that are true for you will be the whole point of what's going on in the center of this transformational period, passing through the eye of the needle.
Well, thank you for that. And when do you see this virus ending?
As long as it has already been going on in your general awareness, about 3.5 months of your time will be the amount of time on the other side of this particular point as well, before you will find yourselves going into a state where you feel that things are settling down somewhat. This doesn't mean that it may not reoccur, but the idea is that this passage is about half a year long, and you are in the middle of it.
Okay. And I feel kind of like when you said 2020 was going to be crazy, I feel like there's a lot more to come. And
there will be, but again, how you experience it depends upon what it is you let go of, so that when you get on the other side of the eye of the needle, the other side of that passage, you'll be able to handle whatever it is that does crop up from that point forward in a much more effective and positive way.
Would one of the things that may come up be as you read the energy now, would it be like a prelude to maybe President Trump announcing without a doubt that we're in contact with extraterrestrials?
We cannot make this prediction.
Okay, thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to ask was, in terms of the actual name of it, coronavirus, obviously corona means crown. So is this in any way linked?
Corona means halo.
Halo, sorry.
Like the halo, the corona of the sun.
Yes.
It is named that way because of the halo of protrusions around the virus.
Ah, right, okay. So in terms of the people who are, say, I'm experiencing a lot of different realities all at once at the moment. Sometimes it feels like it's fake, all this. Sometimes it feels very real.
Yes.
Sometimes it's in the middle.
Yes.
Is that because of all the parallel realities converging?
Yes. This is the time, and we will be in an upcoming transmission talking more specifically about this idea of the converging parallel realities in a transmission soon called the Parallel Reality Wheel, to give you more understanding and conscious awareness and efficacy in working with all of the different overlapping parallel reality versions of Earth you are now experiencing in this transitional period. Yes.
And in terms of the human trafficking that Donald Trump's trying to eradicate now, is that partly linked to...
We cannot comment on your political situation to that degree.
Okay. In terms of the hybrid children, is there anything they can do for us to help us, or is anything...
They are doing everything that they possibly can. Please, all of you, understand this very important point. We are all doing everything that can already be done. We are giving you all the assistance we can possibly be allowed to give you. You don't have to ask for more than you're being given. You simply have to become more aware of what it is you're already getting.
Right. It feels like there's a huge awakening taking place.
There is.
Is that the whole point of this?
It is the whole point. Becoming more of yourself through this transformation. How you do it is up to you, but we would strongly encourage you, as we always have, to let go of those things that are not you, those fear-based beliefs, to streamline yourself so that any transformation and any transitional passage can be experienced in the most effortless way. It's about discovering yourself from a new point of view.
Thank you. There's a lot of fear coming from like the media, and they're constantly feeding it. So what would be some good solutions to overcome that?
As we have already said, let go of the idea of matching the frequencies of fear-based belief systems. Recognize through your own honest self-investigation and discernment what is and isn't relevant for the reality that you prefer. You have the ability to choose. Make a decision.
What do you expect a reality in terms of what we prefer coming out of the other side of this? What can we expect to see? Because
it will still take time. It will still take time. But this is the opportunity to practice knowing how to live in the reality you prefer through the actions that you take that would be representative of the actions you would be taking if you already lived in that reality. So it's about people allowing themselves to let their behavior be more truly reflective and representative of the reality they prefer to live in, so that they can navigate themselves through the different parallel realities to one that is more reflective and representative of the actions they are taking.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed this, that I've been quite excited in some ways through all this and observing. I've not been really entering the fear really, and I've just felt like I've been observing it.
A neutral place is a good place to be, for then you are in the balance point and can make decisions more clearly by not allowing yourself to necessarily succumb to the vibrations you don't prefer, recognizing more clearly, more consciously what is going on, and making the decisions that are apropos for the person you prefer to be, recognizing that those that don't match belong to another reality that you don't live in.
Yes. And you know, in 2016, when you're in the State of the Union seminar, when your father passed on the prediction about there being in the next 4 years from then a terrorist attack on a global level, is this in any way linked to that? Because he also mentioned an economic collapse soon after that.
It is somewhat connected, but again, we will not make predictions at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. and say hello to my hybrid kids.
You may do so as well.
Thank you. Shivai.
Ha'atu.
Death.
Yes.
Yes, so I understand what you've taught us about each slice of reality and that we're just moving from slice to slice.
Yes.
But I'm just really curious about what that slice of reality is when we transition. What is that next reality, and what kind of dimension it is, and do we continue being the entity as we know of ourselves here?
No.
No.
No, you are more than what you are as a physical personality. You will retain that quality, you'll retain that experience, you'll retain that information, but you will be more than that in much the same way that you retain the experience and information you picked up in going through earlier grades of school, but you are beyond that now. You are more than that now. You are an adult as opposed to a child, even though the child still exists within your experience of yourself. You don't define yourself as only being the child anymore. So similarly, when you expand back into the idea of your spirit self, it's like growing up and retaining your childhood experiences and memories and understandings of what you've learned, but you are more than that and see things from a higher point of view, a broader perspective that allows you to utilize the experience in a more expanded way. Remember that it's still you overall, it's always happening to you, but you will recognize yourself as more than you thought yourself to be here in physical reality, just as you now think of yourself as more than the child you used to be.
And so when the transition, once we transition to the other dimension, it could also be a physical or a non-physical or a semi-physical.
Well, physicality only goes so far in terms of dimensionality. You are shifting from third density to fourth density, and that is all within the idea of the fourth dimensional reality of space and time. But when you actually transition to a higher frequency than that, into fifth density and into the spirit realm and higher forms of vibration, you actually are crossing the threshold from one dimension, the fourth dimension of space and time, into the fifth dimension of non-physical reality. Therefore, you will experience things in a very different way. Time and space will be much more malleable and flexible, and not as rigid or crystallized as you experience it to be in physical reality, which does have a border to it, and it ends at the edge of the fourth dimension, which is also fourth density, which is what you're transitioning into now, a higher state of physical reality. But beyond that, you have to go into non-physical reality, or at least not physical reality as you understand it now in your space-time matrix.
Yes. But does one go there and then decide to actually enter fourth density again? Is it possible?
You can create that experience, but remember, everything exists all at once. So you're just creating an experience of going back into fourth density, but all that actually is a shift of perspective, because that reality already exists. That experience, in a sense, is already set up as a structure, but you can have the decision and make the choice as to whether you want to focus on that particular experiential structure or whether you wish to focus on something different, because all of those options are available to you at the same time.
And so are the higher dimensions even, right?